James Krasnerick here with the final segment of tonight's show, the top 10 NFL players to have not been inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Before we get to number 1, let's recap numbers 10 through 2. Number 10, wide receiver Sterling Sharp. 9, defensive end L.C. Greenwood. 8, running back Ricky Watters. 7, strong safety Donnie Shell. 6, wide receiver Tim Brown. 5, linebacker Kevin Green. 4, guard Jerry Kramer. 3, running back Jerome the Bus Bettis. Number 2, Chris Carter, wide receiver. And now number 1. Every single position or every single phase of the game, whether it be secondary, receiving core, backfield, offensive line, you name it, has been represented in my list. But the one position, the one key important position that has not been referenced so far in this list is the quarterback position. So I decided to save the best and most controversial for last. My number 1 player to have not been inducted in the Hall of Fame is quarterback Ken Stabler. And a lot of people are thinking, Steeler fan, why would he want a Raider to be inducted? Let me tell you something about Ken Stabler. His career numbers are not very impressive, but you have to understand something. Joe Namath is in the Hall of Fame. His career completion percentage, Ken Stabler's, is 10 points better than Namath at 59.9%. He threw at least 10 more touchdowns and 10 fewer interceptions than Namath did, and Namath had an abysmal touchdown-interception ratio. The only difference is Ken Stabler didn't guarantee a win in a Super Bowl. If he would have, he'd have been inducted. Ken Stabler, also known as the Snake, was underrated with his mobility, could move, could adjust, could get out of the way, and he was so tricky to play. Not too many people were used to playing lefty quarterbacks back in the day. Being a lefty gave Stabler a huge edge, especially over opposing defenses. He was an NFL MVP in 1974, 4-time a Pro Bowler, 1-time an NFL first-team All-Pro, had 194 career touchdown passes, won the Super Bowl in 1976, and if you ask people, what do you remember Ken Stabler for? People that watched football in the 70s. The comebacks. The Holy Roller. The last second play at the end of a game in San Diego at the start of the 79 season. We got hit from behind, the ball popped forward, landed in the hands of one of his backs. Then that would end up landing in the hands of his tight end, David Casper, in the end zone for a touchdown. Always had a knack for winning the games late. Number 2, the Sea of Hands. Let's talk about this game for a second. It was between the 2-time defending champion Dolphins and the top seed in the AFC and the prohibitive AFC favorite, the Raiders, in Oakland. Miami had just taken a 26-21 lead. Stabler drives him right down the field. Stabler's about to get sacked. The ball is, he just flows it right in the air, just like pops it up, not even a spiral at all. Was able to aim it right into the hands of his running back, Clarence Davis, in the end zone for a touchdown. Then you have the ghost to the post, a 1977 playoff game against the Baltimore Colts. Late in the game, they're trailing. There was a deep pass to Dave Casper. Over-the-shoulder catch, right between the defenders. They would go on to tie the game and force overtime. And at the end of the game, Stabler would hit Dave Casper in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. But a comeback that he's not given credit for was won in 1978. And it was against the New Orleans Saints. Actually, my bad, it was 1979. Regardless, 1979. Stabler in New Orleans, losing to the Saints 35-14. leads his team to 4 straight touchdowns, and they win the game. The last one coming late in the fourth quarter. A lot of people don't want Stabler inducted. In fact, he hasn't been a finalist since the 90s. But you look at all the credentials you want a quarterback to have to be a Hall of Famer. Multiple Pro Bowls, an MVP award, an All-Pro performances, a Super Bowl. Relatively high numbers for his era. Great completion percentage, threw a lot of touchdown passes. Why is he not in the Hall of Fame? I don't know. I'll tell you why. His attitude. Stabler was a lot like Joe Namath. Enjoyed being with the ladies off the field. You know, he was that kind of type. He was that kind of type who would go out late, hang with the girls, come back the next day and win football games. That's what he did. And I think that kind of weighed on a lot of the voters' minds. And a lot of things happened at the end of his career at the press that is, got him blackballed. And it's unfair. Because people are looking at his personality more or less than what he did in the football field. And a lot of people want to dock him for what happened late in his career when he went to New Orleans and Houston and had some unsuccessful years. Well, here's the thing. He was in his late 30s at that time, and he went to a Houston team that was utterly void of pass receivers, and he went to a New Orleans team that was utterly void of any NFL talent. It'd be hard for any quarterback to survive in New Orleans the way they were back then. Stabler actually did a hell of a job, all things considered. But at his peak, in the mid-70s, when he was the quarterback of the Raiders, very, very good quarterback. Probably the best in the league at that point. A lot of people are going to make an argument that, guys like Carter and Bettis and Kramer should be ahead of Stabler. But the fact of the matter is, Carter never won a title. Bettis wasn't a key part of his team's title. I mean, emotionally, yes. On the field, no. But you have to understand, Stabler may have been one of the top 3 greatest clutch quarterbacks of all time. What you want in a quarterback is a quarterback you want as a guy who can lead the team right down the field at the end of the game and win it. And Stabler was the pure embodiment of that. He was so clutch. Late in games, he would win them by the most absurd means. He just made it look easy. He was very, very accurate with the deep ball. One of the best deep ball throwers in the league. And I know a completion percentage of 59.9 doesn't seem impressive, but when you consider the fact that other quarterbacks of his era were struggling to hit 53% of their throws, 59.9% looks more like 70% today. Very, very accurate passer. So for my money, and this is my humble opinion, having seen all these players play, Ken Stabler is the greatest player to have not been inducted in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You talk to anybody who watched him play. You ask Steeler fans of the 70s which quarterback they least like to go up against. They only played Staubach in 2 big games. They had to play at the Raiders almost every year. They'll tell you right now, of all the quarterbacks they least like to go against, Stabler was number 1. Because Stabler's one of the few quarterbacks that could actually play some decent ball against the Steelers' defense in the 70s. When he was at his peak, slam dunk Hall of Fame. Now, was it a very long peak? Like Sandy Koufax with Dodgers, was not a very long peak. Because it was injuries or, inconsistent play. More or less with him, it was inconsistent play. But in his peak for a few years, he was damn good. Alright, I hope everybody enjoyed that. Love my list, hate my list. Y'all entitled to opinion. You're entitled to. Reply to me via email and tell me what you think. My email is on my page. All lowercase LISD. And the number's 121992@yahoo.com. Tell me what you think of my list. I'll definitely reply to them in future shows. But this is my broadcast for tonight. The top 10 list that you will hear about tomorrow. You always hear about teams wanting to hoist that Lombardi Trophy. Teams that put blood, sweat, and tears out in the football field to try to hoist football's holy grail. Some teams get it, some teams don't. Wednesday's list will be the list of the top 10 teams that never won the Super Bowl. They didn't necessarily have to make the dance to lose to get a spot on our list. Some of them made the Super Bowl, some of them didn't. But they'll be the top 10 team to never win a Super Bowl. Hope you guys are ready to hear that.